In today's show, we meet inspirational wheel black Barney Kuniferenisi, who's helping people with disabilities get mobile. We check out a great new recipe from MasterChef Simon Gault with our new segment, What's Cooking with Simon. Then finally, we get another great tip on animal care from founder of the New Zealand Cat Foundation, Anne Batley Burton. Professional athlete Barney Kuniferenisi has never let his disability get in the way of pursuing his dreams. Using sheer grit and determination, he has overcome incredible obstacles to represent New Zealand on the international wheelchair rugby stage. And now, Barney's ready to help other people with disabilities get mobile.
My professional career as a sports person started off at the age of 14. When I first got introduced to wheelchair rugby. I started playing with a bunch of quadriplegics and paraplegics and built my way up to the Auckland team. When I turned 15, I had my first international tournament in Australia, which was a development squad going to test the waters, see how it was. And then just a few months later, I didn't take much from it. I thought, oh, this is just going to be a nice little fun tournament. A few months later, I then got selected to go to Germany. So me being the typical 15-year-old, I didn't know where Germany was. I literally thought Germany was right next to Australia. So we landed in Australia and they were like, oh sweet, we're here. Oh no, this is just a stopover. And I was like, oh okay. Then we went from Australia to China. Oh, we're here yet? No, this is the second stopover. Oh God. And then eventually we got to Germany and then it felt like 2 days. We got there, the entire experience was crazy. We got greeted by beautiful flight attendants, beautiful people in Germany. But the most memorizing experience was, just being a young kid and being able to leave the country and do this, do that. A year after that, I got selected to go to Korea for the Oceania, and then all these other opportunities opened up for travel. I'm 27 now, and I think I've been to at least 32 countries ever since starting when I was 14. So I've been blessed, to say the least, to travel the world. So the sport I play is wheelchair rugby. It is made up of a bunch of quadriplegics, paraplegics, just people with different disabilities. So we have a point classification that goes from 0.5 to 3.5. So 0.5 are those that have higher accidents and have lower function, whereas a 3.5 is the person with all the function in the game and they do all the ball carrying, they run the game, they do this, do that. Luckily, I'm in the 3.5 classification, so that's where my dominant side comes from. So when somebody says, okay, this is happening, like, no, this is happening because I'm running the ball, this is exactly what's going to go down. There's a lot of controversy on the court that happens most of the time, but while they're arguing, I'm already pushing down the court so that nothing passes. After playing the game, you don't feel disabled. It brings up the adrenaline, all that stored in testosterone that you never got out because of certain things that you can't do outside. And then when you get on the court, your disability doesn't matter.
Born into a family with big dreams of Barney becoming an All Black, everything changed for him at the age of just 4 months.
So how I became my fabulous self. Well, I contracted meningitis at the age of 4 months, which resulted in me getting parts of my right fingers amputated and parts of my left hand cut off. I did have skeleton-like legs that I did have carry on until the age of 10. And then the doctors were like, well, there's no blood flow going through there. So if we don't do something now, your son might become paralyzed because obviously it's going to become dead weight. So the thing that annoyed my family the most was the fact that I had to go through 7 to 8 surgeries every year, and then for them to later on down the line saying that none of the surgeries worked, we have to amputate your son's leg. My dad looked at them and he pretty much said it to me. He's like, he feels like I was a science experiment. And for them to come up to me after 12 years of surgery maybe close to 60, 70 surgeries for them to say that there's nothing else we can do. The best thing for your son is for us to operate and amputate his legs. When I heard that as well, I was like, well, what kind of bullshit is this? You put me through how many years of pain for you just to turn around and say, I'm sorry, but there's nothing else we can do. And when they told me that I was going to lose my legs, I was like, well, what can I do now? So it wasn't the best, but I did spend at least 3-4 months depressed in hospital because my skin was super sensitive. It was ripping. So they had to get donated artificial skin or donated skin and staple the skin together to ensure it doesn't keep ripping. Like the staple marks are still there. So staple marks all up here. So I had at least maybe 10, 15 staples in the leg. And I remember it was on my birthday. This was before I had my leg amputated. One of the most painful things was, I don't know what it's called, but it's like a circle metallic contraption with bolts. So what they did, my bone was crooked, and their idea was if we screw these bolts inside his leg, we can try and straighten his bones. Didn't. And like just thinking back at that and then thinking 3 years later saying none of that worked, we have to amputate your leg, that's super frustrating. But then later on down the line, I've learned to accept it. I looked at the positive side, like 1, I would have been paralyzed. At least I can walk. 2, at least I'm agile. At least I can move around. I'm a lot better off than most people I've met. And 3, I'm alive. If I didn't cut these legs off, a bug would have grew on my spine and would have made me less mobile, would have just killed me today. So the fact that I'm actually here, regardless of having no legs, no arm, regardless of not being able to do many things, the fact that I actually got a second chance in life and got to breathe the air that most people can't breathe, this is a massive blessing for me. So there are a lot of barriers to living life as a person with a disability. Getting out's not the best for most of us. If we do get out, we do have to dodge scooters. So the biggest headache that for people that are either visually impaired or are in wheelchairs, that you know those Lime scooters that are always that people always ride, and then when you run out of time, it just stops, and then you have to get off and walk the rest. It's not the best when we're trying to push on the footpath and the things are literally so wide and so heavy that most of us can't lift them up. So we end up having to go off the curb and look both ways and then sprint to the other side where the footpath is and sprint to the side that's open. And then once we do get to our destination, we then have to wait for the train, which sometimes never runs. And then if the trains aren't running, we have to take the bus, which isn't the best, because we always fall into instances where the bus driver sees the wheelchair or the person with the service animal or just anyone with a disability in general, and they are like, no, this is going to be a lot of work. So 9 out of 10 times every week, a person in a wheelchair or a person that's visually impaired always gets turned down by these bus services. So our next option are taxis. The trouble with taxis is that the big vans are all booked out for school runs early in the morning. So they all got contracts with Ministry of Education. So from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., they're all unavailable. For those guys that rely on these vehicles to get to their meetings or get to work or just get to important life events, most of them miss out on those certain things because they can't get that vehicle. When we call for a taxi, we always get rejected by that company because the driver, like I said, is just like the bus. The driver doesn't want to get out of their taxi. They don't want the wheelchair in their boot, or they say, we don't want dogs in our car. We order companies like Uber, Ola, and Didi, and with these companies being, their drivers being independent contractors instead of employees, they do the same things as these taxi companies do, so they don't pick us up and take us. And they say, when we take them to court, they said the driver has every right to reject us because they are independent contractors, it's their cars, their rules. So we have the other issue of females being sexually assaulted on different transport platforms. So we had a lot of women with disabilities do the survey and said that they've been taken advantage of. I want to take a longer route to raise the meter, knowing that that individual has a total mobility concession card that would chop the fare in half. So a normal fare might cost $35 to $40. If they know you have a mobility card, that fare might be $200. Because they know that you have the card, so they say if it's $200, it'll be $100. Like from, an example was 2 months ago, I went to see a gentleman that's helping me with this business as well. From my house to the CBD, Auckland City, it cost me $240 one way. Instead of spending months to years on these cases, let's put all our energy into this business, which is the rideshare that will be catering to the disabled, women, people with pets, the rainbow community, everyone.
And now Barney's love of cars and getting mobile is driving him to help others with disabilities get access to transportation catering to their unique needs, enabling them to feel safe and supported while providing the vital services that people with disabilities need to stay active and integrated into society.
I'm such a motorhead. I absolutely love my vehicles. Growing up, I always, the typical kid that always want to jump in the front seat when their dad goes shopping. Or literally just goes up to the grocery store when my dad goes off to work, and then I wait for him to finish because it's a short shift. I always jump in the driver's seat, pretend that I'm driving, like doing the typical changing the gears and trying to reach the foot pedal with my imaginary legs. I've always loved the sound of engines. It turns me on. So our biggest mission is to obviously start off by purchasing a wheelchair accessible van, because that's where the lack of supply is right now. Because like I said, all these vans that these guys with larger wheelchairs rely on are booked up school runs. So if we can purchase one van and then start off with that, that'll make, although the service will be slow, we're slowly fixing the issue. We will be adding a lot of different drivers that will cater to different parts of the community, like people with disabilities. So we'll be having drivers that are trained knowing how to dismantle chairs. The other thing we are doing is for the female section, we are hoping to add a large fleet of women drivers. So when the female section is selected on the app, every single male driver on our platform will get filtered out, and the nearest female driver will get the job. That's just to help them feel safer. I might as well put all the energy into this Give a Little. So the Give a Little page will cover things from the development of the app to the purchase of a fully accessible wheelchair-friendly van. The van with the hoist, because those are very expensive to come by. So we're going to have features like softwares that break down speech impediments, because there are people that don't have full use of their arms, like people with cerebral palsy, don't have full use of their arms and cannot speak properly due to the dislocation of their muscle. In your entire lifetime, we will always overcome challenges. We will always come into challenges. There's that saying, do not let your current story be your final chapter. There's always a bright light. There's always something ahead of you, but you just need to work for it. Don't listen to the white noise. There will always be people on the outside saying you can't do this, you can't do that. Even with me, with my disability, people said I wouldn't be able to feed myself, I wouldn't be able to push, I wouldn't be able to think for myself. I would need 24-hour care. All of that's proven wrong because I blocked them out. So don't let anybody dictate your future. You're the one with the key, you're the one in control.
To support Barney and his attempts to help people with disabilities get mobile, head to his Give a Little page.
Barbecued tuna steaks with a Moroccan broccoli and bacon salad. Super delicious. Let's make it. Let's start with the dressing. So the dressing is super easy. It's 1 cup of coconut cream, Moroccan seasoning, quite a bit, 3 tablespoons going in there. Use whichever one you like. Of course, I'm using my one. Any half decent supermarket's got it. 1.5 tablespoons of lime juice. Limes are expensive at the moment, so I'm using this wicked juice that I got at the supermarket. Fish sauce, you've got to have this in. There we go, and the recipe is in the description below. Orange, right? Orange zest. So I've got one whole orange. I'm going to put about half the zest in here, and that's the oil from the zest is going to come out and put a delicious orange flavour to add to our Moroccan dressing in there. And there you go, no grating fingers off, and let's give that a whiz up. Dressing is done. We'll keep it in the fridge, but I do want to serve it at room temperature when I drizzle it over our salad. I want goji berries in there. They're an antioxidant, but get a couple of tablespoons of lemon or lime juice over them, and because they're dried, it'll soak up all that lime juice, and you'll get these bursts of, goji explosions through your salad. Next, we've got some broccoli. I've got some water over there heating up. I want the water boiling to cook the broccoli. We're just going to blanch it, and literally we're just getting our broccoli into florets. Let's break them into sort of the size pieces that you want. Now, I need an ice bath already, so I've got some cold water. I'm just going to put some big ice cubes in there, so I have this water really cold because I want to stop the cooking process of the broccoli once it comes out of that boiling water. Healthy pinch of salt into the water. In goes our broccoli. Make sure it's all submerged in the water. We're going to give it 2 minutes in rapid boiling water. Strain them off. And they go to the ice bath. These guys have been in here for a few minutes, so let's get rid of all that cold water and get as much of the water out as we can. Now, you could use a tea towel to dry these off, or I'm going to use a salad spinner. Nothing like a bit of gold horsepower. Quite a bit, look at that. These in there. It's pretty hard to beat any salad that has crispy bacon. I'm using rineless streaky bacon into a medium to hot pan. I'm going to control the heat so that I don't burn the bacon. I want it to be golden, but I want it to be crispy. So I'll start with a medium-high heat, and then I'll turn it down. And turning it every now and again. Bacon now crispy on a paper towel to absorb any excess fat. Love it! Our dressing is done. Let's cut some tomatoes up. I've got cherry tomatoes. And there you go. Chickpeas are great for us. I've drained the can off. Goji berries soaking in some lime juice. You could use lemon juice. Now they're soft and they're going to be little bursts of flavour. I'm going to put the juice in as well. If you're a spicy fan, you could chop a red or green chilli up super fine and fold this through, or you could even put it into the Moroccan dressing. I will just chop that up and see how it just crumbles up now, which is exactly what I want. Got the tuna out of the fridge, because putting cold tuna into a pan or on a barbecue grill, no good. You've got to let it get to room temperature. We don't want to have icy cold tuna in the middle, do we? Because we're going to serve it rare to medium rare. Now I want to make a dressing to put over the top of our tuna. I've got some Italian leaf parsley here. Just scrunch it up. I'll put that quick little chop up into a bowl. Now I like chilli. You could leave this out, so I'm just going to have a little bit of red and green chilli through there, and it will add some colour to over the top of our tuna, as much or as little or none if you like, depending on how you feel about it all. Now you could take some Dijon mustard, whatever mustard you like. I'm going to keep those. They'll go in the freezer. They'll last well in the freezer. I am going to get this smoky mustard, and I'm going to get just under about half a tablespoon in there. I have got some guava balsamic. So I'm going to put equal quantities of 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Now, let's just have a sneak of some salt in there, just a pinch. And that is just a little dressing that we're going to have over the tuna once it's cooked. Right, tuna. I got a big piece. I like to serve about 180 grams to 200 grams. Moisture is our enemy. When we're cooking steak or anything that's going into the pan or on the grill, you don't want it to be moist. So I'm going to give it a good dab down and get rid of all that moisture. Nicely down. We're doing a Moroccan dish, right? A Moroccan broccoli and bacon salad. We better add a little bit of Moroccan to our tuna. Some extra virgin olive oil. Get some cracked pepper on there. Sprinkling of salt. There we go. And some Moroccan seasoning, which is magically appearing for me. Because I've got a little guest with me today who's going to do a little tasting with me soon. Now I just want to pop that in there. There we go. The other side too, and you can move it around so you get all of that goodness off there. The barbecue is heating up. My trusty old barbecue that just keeps going and keeps going. Now, a little extra virgin over the top of these guys. Cracked pepper, your salt, a little bit of that Moroccan seasoning. You can use Moroccan, you could use Mexican. If you have a look up here, you can see I've got a range of seasonings. And let's cook some tuna. So the key before we start barbecuing is to be organised. I've got a plate to put our cooked product on. I've got something I can leverage it off the grill. I've got some tongs. Everything is ready inside. Always just a quick, make sure the grill is good and clean. We don't need to put any oil or anything on there because we have it on our tuna. Give it a little toss around in that oil and all that lovely Moroccan seasoning. The grill is hot, and with the lid down, what I love about my barbecue is once the lid's down, it's like cooking in an oven. So you get that halo heat, and it's going to be about 200 degrees. So literally we're going to be about a minute maximum each side because we want medium rare tuna, and the tuna is at room temperature. Coming up a minute, and you can see that it's cooking up the side of the tuna. You can see it there, more so at the back than this front guy. So I'm going to go, yeah, time to turn. Wait a moment or two with these ones. Here we are, we're getting some cooking up the side on this one. Another minute on that side. Where's my beer? No assistant to get me a beer. It's a beautiful day. Look at that. Beautiful. And see how easily it comes off the barbecue because we just oiled it, and you can see that lovely Moroccan crust we've got on the tuna. How delicious does that look? Tuna is done. It's been resting just a little bit. I've got this beautiful dressing here ready to go. We've got our dressing for our broccoli Moroccan salad, and you know, as much or as little as you like. And let's just toss that around in there. Oh, look at that. That is beautiful little bowl. And I'm going to get my fingers under here. And this way it gives your salad that lovely height that we want to get. Just a few more little ones around the side. The bacon can go on over the top, that crispy bacon. I'm going to save a little bit for later. I've got a couple of different plates here. Serve some of that on there. We could cut this, or we could do it rustic and just snap it in half like that. See, it's lovely and moist. It's glistening in the middle. There we go. And if you didn't have this dressing, you could just drizzle a little olive oil and lemon juice. Boom, you're done. Put it on the plate. Delicious.
Struggling with pain or discomfort, joint pain, muscle fatigue, cramps or chafing? Then you need Qolium. Queolium is a range of organic and natural New Zealand Indigenous plant-based muscle relief creams, cooling gels, and anti-friction creams designed to soothe away aches, pains, or skin irritation. Originally designed by a physiotherapist to support the recovery of pro athletes, Queolium muscle rubs and anti-chafing creams are a great choice for hardcore athletes, sporty kids, or those with injuries, arthritis, or daily aches and pains. So order yours now in the Guide to Better Living online store and use the coupon code GUIDE10 in the cart to secure a 10% discount. Reclaim your life and your movement with Queolium.
It's really important when you've got a cat, before you start getting another pet, it's really, really important to decide what sort of cat you've got. Some people think, oh yes, I've got an elderly cat. Why not let's get a little kitten for him as a friend? Well, that cat probably is going to hate you for that, because if it's an elderly cat, just like an older person, maybe having a little child running around, driving them crazy to trip over and so on, the elderly cat probably doesn't really want a little kitten to be friends with. It may actually just want to live out its life in comfort, getting all the attention on him and not having anything else competing with you for your attention. It can be quite distressing for an old cat. And so often we get people who'll come and they'll say, oh yes, we've got an old cat, so we thought we'd get another one. It probably needs some company. I think it's more likely that the poor old cat's going to pass away very quickly because it's feeling that it's being usurped. The attention tends to go on the new, young, cute one, and all of a sudden they're just left and they feel abandoned. So before you start doing anything like that, I think it's very, very important to think about it and what sort of cat you've got and what its needs are.